Story is Heart and Soul, The Story of America and African Americans by Kadir Nelson. The genre of the book is nonfiction and it's also a picture book, which means that along with the narration of the book, pictures were used to give viewers or readers a better illustration. Publishers' recommended age was from 9 to 17 years old, and the book was published in 2011. In 2012, it won the Coretta Scott King Medal Award for it being a great contributory factor in the literary world. The major themes that the book surrounds would be racial prejudice, depression, oppression, determination, and socio-economic inequality within society. More about the book. This story is told in a first person narrative of a young African American's ordeal during one of the toughest times in American history, especially being of colored descent. It covers the horrors of slavery, the drumbeats of war, the unfortunate rise of the Jim Crow laws, the Northern migration, and the result. And for those of you who may not know about the Jim Crow laws, these were laws that were literally enforced for racial segregation within the southern United States. The book vividly encapsulates the willpower and the strength of a people determined to be a part of their country, which they helped build to make their home. The story is illustrated in such a compelling, complex, and deeply personal mannerism that it grasped the attention of all who read it, touching their hearts as their minds were enlightened on the significant hardships ancestors and relatives faced. The book's narration is accompanied by pictures illustrating some of the hard times that the Black African Americans would have faced. These are some of the images of the book used to help show readers the ordeals that the Black African Americans had to go through. Some of them were slaves to their masters, their white masters. Some of them hardly had anything. They didn't have much at all, were torn up pieces of clothing, if so much. Some of them had to be forced to join the army or to fight in wars to help defend what they knew as home now. And of course, we cannot forget that slavery is what brought these people out of their country and into a white man's land where they then had to try to make their home. A little bit more about the author. So, the author's name is Kadir Nelson, and he is an empowered African American painter, illustrator, and author. And he's best known for his creative paintings, mostly published in the New Yorker magazines. His work focuses predominantly on African American culture. In an interview, Kadir once explained that the reason for this is because he felt like he needed to honor his ancestors by showing the world the struggle Black African Americans face from their time of enslavement to the present day. He believes in educating and sensitizing the world about the hardships through his art pieces and literature, and also to depict the beauty of the Black community. Here are some of the empowered paintings done by the author Kadir Nelson that shows the Black community's history and their empowerment. And of course, we cannot forget some of Kadir Nelson's literature works that he would have contributed to the literature world, and they all are strongly rooted in the Black culture.
Children's literature is any literature that children like. Children's literature in particular refers to the novels created and published for young people who are not yet interested in adult literature or who do not have the appropriate reading skills or developmental understandings to read it. Children's literature also includes magazines aimed at pre-adult audiences in addition to novels. Children's literature is written for children from infancy through early adolescence, which roughly corresponds to ages of 12 to 14. Young adult literature exists between the literature most acceptable for children and the literature most appropriate for adults. Young adult literature is typically more sophisticated in subject and literary structure than children's literature. The majority of the literacy genres seen in adult writing can also be found in children's literature. Children's literature contains equivalents to all types of fiction, including modern, realism, fantasy, and historical fiction, poetry, folk stories, legends, myths, and epics. Non-fiction for the children comprises books on the arts and humanities as well as social, physical, biological, and earth science, as well as biography and autobiography. Furthermore, children's books can take the form of picture books in which visual and spoken texts are combined to make a linked whole. Storybooks, alphabet books, counting books, wordless books, and concept books are examples of picture books for children. Children's literature is often regarded as one of the most important avenues via which a child is intentionally introduced to and exposed to the actual world. Many intellectuals and educationalists have raised concerns about its impact on the development of children and the formation of ideologies. Children's literature is classified as literature directed at children in their growing years that is appropriate for their stage of mental and psychological development. This contains written content for children who are not yet interested in adult literature or who lack adult reading skills. Two theories of children literature we looked at is Piaget's cognitive theory of development and Erikson's psychosocial development. John Piaget, a Swiss psychologist, created the cognitive theory of development model. It is broken down into stages. The sensory motor period, which lasts from infancy to around 2 years, is the first stage. Russell 2009 stated, children at this stage are egocentric, understanding just what they are experiencing through their senses at this time. At this moment, the concept of object performance does not apply. At this age, children's reading provides a pleasurable experience with books and storytime. Tactile books and books with rhythmic sounds can be fun for children at this age. The following stage is the pre-operational stage, which ranges in ages from 2 to 7 years. This is the stage at which children begin to learn reasoning, yet they are incapable of grasping physical world generalizations such as reversibility, assimilation, or accommodation. At this age, children do not understand abstract concepts well, but they do understand simple notions such as colors, forms, and size. At this age, books with talking animals and animating machines are popular. The third stage is the concrete operational period, which lasts between the ages of 7 and 11. At this age, children can understand fundamental reasoning, begin problem solving, comprehend temporal and spatial relationships, and become aware of their surroundings and in their place in society. At this age, children can appreciate more complicated stories about family and friend relationships, as well as some historical stories. The phase of formal operational is the final step. This stage occurs between the ages of 11 and 15. By this age, children understand formal reasoning, the exchange of ideas, the perspectives of others, and their social duties. Children of this age can read novels about challenging issues such as works about different societal and interpersonal issues. Erikson's psychosocial development classified childhood into five psychosocial stages. From birth to 18 months, the first stage, trust against mindset, occurs. Children must establish trust in their caretakers at this point. Books recommended at this time should bring comfort and security. The second stage is autonomy versus doubt, which occurs between the ages of 18 months and 3 years. At this age, youngsters begin to explore their independence and overcome misgivings about their abilities. For this age, imaginative books with capable characters are advised. Erikson's model third stage is initiative versus guilt. Between the ages of 3 and 6, children go through this stage. This is the stage at which child establish their own duties and develop a knowledge of conflict. Stories that assist children comprehend their emotions and duties are included in books for this period. At this age, 7 to 11, the next stage is superiority versus inferiority. At this age, children comprehend the concepts of success and failure. At this age group, benefits from stories that helps children build a greater knowledge and acceptance of themselves and others. When a child approaches puberty, the ultimate stage is identity versus role confusion. At this age, children battle their cultural and social identities. Books that teach children about themselves and others are appropriate for this period. Adolescent children prefer books that are frank and honest, while also including characters who are similar to them.
Heart and Soul: The Story of America and the African Americans by Kadir Nelson. Purpose of literature. Author's intention is to show the readers the history of both Africans and Americans in America. Africans being slaves captured and descendants of African Americans, and the Americans in this case would be Caucasians or whites. The author uses written language and pictures, paintings as mediums. These paintings were portrayed to show the main topic of each chapter. They were also done by the author, so he painted most of them himself. Author tells history and opinions through the point of view of a descendant of African slaves in America. Stories of actual plantation slaves were passed down through generations or even directly, so it could be from grandparent to grandchild, parent to child. You have to know where you come from so you can move forward. This quote is to help the readers understand where they need to develop in a multi-ethnic society. Readers become aware of racial issues, racism, racial sensitivity, and injustice. Racial sensitivity being whitewashing, where they change African characters in history to non-African, or even leaving them out completely. This can be seen in some of the historical paintings. Purpose continued, showing the reality of slave capturing from Africa and trading in America. Now, capturing where they were stuffed in a ship and chained for almost a month at sea. Being taken out of their own homes from Africa and all the way to America, a different climate altogether. Being treated like animals and sold like objects to work. The target audience of this book by the author said to be ages 8 to 12 years old. This would be the middle grade in American education system. Now, if we were to change those ages to our system, standards 2 to 5 primary and forms 1 to 2 secondary in Trinidad and Tobago's education system. The book offers intermediate level language use. This is said because the story is being told from a first person point of view, like a conversation towards the readers, and dialogue could often get confusing and mixed up sometimes. This being said, lower level assisted reading, while higher level will be well equipped to read independently.
Heart and Soul gives us a complete image of African Americans from beginning to end, with pictures that are enticing from the very first page. The images have a soul to them. Strange though, scarcely a black face in all those gorgeous photographs, is what a sentence from the book says, meaning you'd think black people hadn't been around since the beginning, but that's simply not the case. From a Revolutionary War, warriors to slavers, cowboys to Union men, the book manages to provide us with a synthesized history of a race in the context of a nation's growth in under 12 chapters. The narrator of Heart and Soul is a fictional character who is quite entertaining. She delivers a decent historical recap of the past, and she makes the book personal, giving it a more kid-friendly zing. Nelson has had to simplify some of the world's most complex moments and thoughts. It's fascinating to see what has piqued his interest here as well. The decision to begin with the baptism of Pocahontas in the rotunda of the United States Capitol is brilliant. Individual sections of this work would narrow down a moment or a person too much to be fully comprehended without some background knowledge. For example, the book's account of why we entered World War II is, to put it mildly, confusing. To begin, we discover that the Nazis were occupying most of Europe and inflicting suffering on the people. That's all right. The text then claims that Japan bombed Pearl Harbor. Let's pretend I'm a kid reading this novel on my own, with only a rudimentary knowledge of World War II. I recently read that the Germans were attempting to take over Europe. Japan has bombed us and we are now at war with them. So what does this have to do with the Germans, if anything? As an adult with some knowledge of history, you may be aware of the relationship, but Nelson seems to gloss over it. When you don't know the environment in which children will be reading nonfiction, determining whether or not they will enjoy it is tough. Children's literature should be simple and straightforward. It should include childhood events, express a child's point of view, and have a tone of joy and innocence. Children will scrunch their noses at the size of this novel and may flip through and look at the pictures first. With any children's literature novel, you want them to be able to understand what they are reading in order for them to summarize the novel and develop their own opinions, but that may prove to be difficult if the book requires a history background. As we learned earlier, children's literature is written for children who are not yet interested in adult literature or who lack the necessary reading skills or developmental knowledge to read it. Heart and Soul seems to be young adult literature, which is where the subject matter and literary structure are usually more advanced than that of children's literature.
When analyzing if a piece of literature is appropriate for the consumption by children, one must first look at the themes. The themes are the feelings and situations that would be addressed throughout the body of work. Now, common themes of children's literature are loss, fear, love, anxiety, anger, loneliness, joy, curiosity, greed, and the list goes on. Now, this isn't done by chance. This is done so it can be easily relatable to the reader, and also so the reader can apply the lessons that is learned within the literature as a part of their own lives. And when looking at the themes found in Heart and Stone, they appear to be racial prejudice, depression, oppression, determination, and social economic inequality. Now, these themes are very deep. These themes are multifaceted and they require a great deal of prior knowledge to fully grasp and to fully understand the meanings in totality. This would not be appropriate for a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old or for anybody that falls into the bracket of children's literature reader. And for this, we are certain that this book is not appropriate for children's consumption.
After analysis of the book, our group decided that it is not children's literature. Children's literature offers a wonderful mixture of magic and reality, according to models based on the philosophical and scientific studies by Jean Piaget, Eric Erikson, and Lawrence Kohlberg. shed light on child's development. Why the book is not children's literature. Children's literature teach lessons to children. We want children to learn the correct lessons about life. Therefore, if a book teaches what we want taught, we call it a good book. Children's book contains large and colorful illustrations to stimulate their young eyes, as color delivers it better than black and white. Also, the need for large enough pictures is used so that children can see clearly. Popular. When other people like the book, we think that it must be good. We want our child to like the book. And one that is recommended by others seems like a good start. Absence of harshness. Inevitably, children will encounter difficulties soon enough. We must ensure that they enjoy their life now. We must protect them from the tough side of living as long as possible. Absence of scariness. We don't want to invite fear or nightmare to our young readers. Absence of swearing. We don't want books to model inappropriate behaviors. Children's books should be short. We don't want to overpower children. Keep the reading easy. Simple vocabulary. Let's not frustrate young readers. Classic. Tried and true books have passed the test of time and are of proven worth. In addition, they don't have swear words or sex. Familiar content. We think our child will respond to a book about zoo because they go to the zoo often. If a book connects to children's experience, it will be a better book.
Quoting from Kadir Nelson, my purpose is to create a mirror for the reader to see themselves, to create a light for people to see themselves in the characters, pictures, and stories, so they resonate. Let us look at the primary curriculum and children's literature. The primary curriculum focuses on transitioning from early and emergent stages into chapter book reading. The National Primary Curriculum of Trinidad and Tobago is designed to focus primarily on the experiences within our country's environment in order to foster the children's learning and development. The curriculum requires culturally relevant and age appropriate reading, intertwined with our citizens' own experiences. Also, to add to this, transitional books have shorter chapters. Whilst the book Heart and Soul, The Story of America and African Americans is no doubt informative by stating the realistic historical facts of struggle and hardship, however, a higher level of understanding, analysis, and application to the student's own realistic environs would be demanded. Therefore, the book is deemed a complex book. Furthermore, children's literature should build character. Children's literature is of value, and at the early stages of primary school education, students are taught how and when to switch between the two main linguistic languages, the first language of their country, the English Creole, and Standard English, which is required for formal speaking and writing, especially in our education system. Also, it fosters personality and social development. It builds on basic character traits such as kindness and friendship. Children literature teaches us morals and values. Therefore, fables, fictional stories, and reenactment of historical events are a better choice for instilling these values to children between the ages of 5 and 12. The book, The Adventure of Fatty and Payaso, written by Marie Yunanus, is a book commonly used to build character, kindness, friendship, and self confidence in students. In attempting to keep updated with the 21st century, the Ministry of Education adjusted its primary curriculum to incorporate and ensure that every student enrolled in a school is taught the importance of developing proper character and value skills in order to become a productive, caring, and responsible citizen wherever they go. Another important factor in children's literature is the use of graphic illustration. Illustrations used in books and novels for children must be appealing. According to Bongiorno 2014, children can learn several developmental skills during an illustrated lesson through social and emotional skills, language, cognitive domain, and even the physical skill set. Appropriate literature motivates for physical activity as students feel comfortable to attempt to draw, paint, or make models of a scene or portrait illustrated within the literacy text. High level drawings or illustrations used in the literature pieces can discourage students to further pursue to draw similar pictures from the text because of its intricate and defined nature. Therefore, illustrations should grab the children's attention. It should be colorful. The type of imagery plays an important role. Illustrated content must always be suitable for children.